I want you to picture a scenario that I guarantee has happened to you. You're at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
It's Tuesday. You're tired. You've got milk, maybe some eggs. You're waiting for the person in front of you to figure out their coupons. And your eyes just drift
Oh, yes. To the magazine rack.
to the rack. It's just a wall of color, bright yellows, massive red fonts, and these glossy photos of people who look much, much happier and wealthier than anyone in that line.
The checkout aisle distraction.
Yeah.
The universal human experience.
It really is. And usually we just absorb it as background noise. Oh, look, a royal wedding.
Of another divorce.
Exactly. But today, I want to stop the conveyor belt for a second because we are going to do a deep dive into the origin story of one of those glossy magazines.
And not just anyone.
No,
Yeah.
not a generic tabloid. We are talking about the grandmother of them all. If you speak Spanish, you know it as Hola. If you speak English, you know it's Child Hello magazine.
It's fascinating that you call it the grandmother, because that implies it's old. And most people think celebrity culture is this very modern, internet-fueled thing.
Right. But the story we are digging into today starts way, way back in 1944.
Which is an incredible detail.
It completely threw me for a loop when I was reading the research. 1944. I mean, think about the context. The world is at war. Spain is recovering from its own civil war.
It seems like the absolute worst time to launch a glossy magazine about the good life.
But that is exactly what happened. So, okay, let's unpack this. We aren't just talking about gossip today. We're talking about a business empire that started at, like, a kitchen table.
That is the perfect way to frame it. This isn't just about who is dating whom. This is a business case study on how to identify a massive gap in the market, specifically what they called the women's industry, and build a global brand around it.
So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Exactly. To trace that line from a small family operation in Barcelona to the massive media conglomerate that sits on newsstands in 15 different countries today.
Okay, so set the scene for us. 1944, Barcelona. Who wakes up and decides, you know what this city needs? A magazine.
That man would be Antonio Sanchez Gomez. And from everything we've read, he wasn't your typical media tycoon.
No board of directors or anything like that?
No venture capital. He founded Hola on September 2, 1944, right there in Barcelona. And the most striking thing about the early days is just how small the operation was.
I think small might even be an understatement. The research mentions a mom and pop dynamic, but usually that's just, marketing fluff.
Right, like, oh, we're a family business, but they have 5,000 employees.
Yes. But in this case, it was literal.
It was literal. Antonio ran the magazine until his death in the 1970s. But the staff, it wasn't just random hires. It was predominantly his relatives.
And this family dynamic wasn't just about, giving your cousin a job. It was about quality control.
That's the key. And there's this incredible detail in the sources about his wife's role in the whole production.
This was my favorite part of the prep reading. Because you imagine these big editorial meetings with art directors screaming about layouts. But tell us who was actually doing the work.
It was the founder's wife. She was known to personally step in and handle the layout for the most important spreads.
Which ones?
Specifically the royal weddings.
I just love that image. Imagine the scene. You have this growing publication. People are waiting for the coverage of a massive royal event. And the founder's wife is there.
Maybe with scissors and paste.
Deciding, no, the princess looks better on the left page.
It sounds charming, almost quaint, doesn't it? But if we look at it through a business lens, it tells us something really crucial about their strategy.
What's that?
They treated the product with an intense level of personal care. They weren't just slapping photos on a page to make a quick buck. They were curating an aesthetic.
So that family feel translated into the product itself.
Exactly. The magazine felt intimate, like it was being shared by a family for a family.
And eventually, that kitchen table style of management had to scale up. I mean, they couldn't stay in Barcelona forever.
No, eventually the headquarters moved to Madrid, which makes sense. If you want to be a national player in Spain, you go to the capital. But even with that move and all the growth, that family control remained incredibly tight.
Now, here is where it gets really interesting to me. Because today, if I pick up Hello or Hola, I know exactly what I'm getting. Celebrities, royalty, red carpets.
The whole deal.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that wasn't the original pitch?
Not at all. And this is a classic example of a business pivot before that word became a buzzword in Silicon Valley.
So what was the initial concept?
When Antonio first launched it in '44, the concept was a generic family magazine, just wholesome, broad appeal.
And it had a section that I just cannot wrap my head around.
Let me
A
guess.
self-help section.
It did.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You open a tabloid today, and next to photos of a movie star's vacation, there's an article on how to be more productive or how to find inner peace. It feels like two completely different worlds.
It does now.
But back then, they were throwing things at the wall to see what stuck.
And this is where Antonio Sanchez Gomez showed his genius. He was looking at the numbers, looking at reader response, and he realized the self-help stuff. It just wasn't the hook.
He wasn't sticky enough.
Exactly. He had this realization about the women's industry. He saw that there was a massive underserved market for pure escapism.
Oh.
Women didn't necessarily want to be told how to fix their lives in that format. They wanted to see a life that was bigger, brighter, more glamorous than their own.
So he pivots from how to fix your life to look at this amazing life.
That is the core shift. He moved away from general family advice and just zeroed in on the doings of royalty.
Which makes so much sense, right? Especially in Europe. Royalty is the original celebrity.
It is, but think about the timing again. Post-war Europe. Times are tough. The economy isn't great.
The appeal of royalty in that context is huge. It's a fairy tale. It offers a window into a world where everything is beautiful, organized, and wealthy.
It was the ultimate counter-programming to the grim reality of the 1940s and 50s.
That's such a good way to put it. It's not just gossip. It's a relief valve. It's fantasy.
But here's the thing that makes Hola really distinct. They didn't just stay in Spain talking about Spanish counts and countesses. They went global. But they didn't just copy-paste the magazine, did they?
No, and this is the second stroke of business genius. Localization. As they look to expand into the English-speaking world and Latin America, they realized that the royalty angle had its limits.
Right. Because if you're trying to sell magazines in, say, Ohio or Buenos Aires, the intricate details of a Spanish duke's wedding might not land the same way.
Precisely. The Spanish version of Hola, even today, stays very true to those roots. It relies heavily on European royalty. That's their bread and butter.
Okay.
But when they looked at the Americas, they realized they needed a different kind of royalty.
We needed Hollywood.
They needed the American royalty. Movie stars.
Yeah.
Singers. The glitterati. So the English and Latin American versions of the magazine shifted their focus.
But they kept the style.
They kept the glossy style, the respectful tone, the high-quality photos, but they swapped the subjects.
It's so smart because it keeps the brand identity, that glossy, respectful look, but just changes the ingredients for the local market.
And that localization strategy is likely the main reason they survived and grew. If they had tried to force Spanish aristocracy down the throats of American readers, they would have failed.
Instead, they just asked, who are your kings and queens?
And in the U.S., that's the people holding the Oscars.
I want to pause on the hello connection for a second because I feel like this is the aha moment for a lot of English speakers listening.
I would think so, too.
I remember seeing Hello magazine my whole life and never realizing it was just a translation.
It's literal. Hola means hello. It's the same DNA.
Yeah.
Hello. In the UK, hello. Canada, hola. USA. These aren't knockoffs.
They're the official children.
They are the children of that original Barcelona parent company. You are holding a piece of Spanish business history every time you pick one up at the airport.
And the reach is honestly staggering. When I looked at the list of countries where this magazine is published, it just blew my mind. We aren't just talking about a couple of neighbors.
No, the footprint is massive. Published in Madrid, yes.
Yeah.
But also in 15 other countries.
I made a list because I wanted to visualize the map. We've got the Americas covered. Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, Puerto Rico, the U.S., Venezuela.
But then you jump oceans.
Right. You've got the U.K., obviously, but then Greece, Indonesia, Pakistan,
Pakistan.
the Philippines, Thailand.
Think about the cultural differences in that list.
Yeah.
Pakistan and Brazil, Thailand and Canada. Those are vastly different cultures, different religions, different social structures.
And yet this format works.
This glossy, aspirational window into the lives of the famous nun, it works in all of them.
And the languages reflect that, too. It's not just English and Spanish.
Right. It's published in Portuguese, Turkish, Thai, traditional Chinese, Greek, Serbian.
Wow.
It just proves that curiosity about high-status individuals is a universal human trait. It doesn't matter what language you speak, you want to see the wedding photos.
And they kept expanding even recently. The source mentioned they launched the Argentina edition in 2010.
Well into the digital age.
Right. While other print magazines were dying off, they were still planting new flags.
Which brings us to the numbers. Because you can launch in 50 countries, but if nobody buys the thing, you don't have a business.
Okay, so let's look at the trajectory. 1944, first week of production in Barcelona. How many copies did Antonio sell?
That first week, they moved 4,000 copies.
Which, honestly, for a guy in 1944 starting from scratch, isn't terrible, but it's a long way from an empire.
A very humble start. But fast forward to the modern era. If you combine the readership of Hola and all its sister magazines, the Hillo brands and so on,
What are we looking at?
you are looking at more than 1 million readers a week.
From 4,000 to over 1 million. That is serious scale.
And if you look at the historical context in Spain specifically, you see just how dominant they became. In 1993, the circulation was around 654,000.
And that's just in Spain.
Just in Spain. Even in 2005, when the internet was really starting to eat into print media, they were sitting at over 500,000 copies.
So where does that put them in the food chain over there?
In Spain, they are the second most popular magazine, right behind a magazine called Pronto. They aren't just a niche publication, they are a mainstream juggernaut.
Okay, so we have the history, we have the strategy, the numbers, but there's one final piece of this puzzle that I think is the most surprising. It's about influence. Because usually when we talk about gossip mags, we dismiss them. We say, oh, that's trashy. That's not real news.
You put them in a separate box.
Yeah.
Serious news is for the broadsheet newspapers, and entertainment is for the glossy magazines.
Exactly. If you are a politician, you go to the serious newspaper. You don't go to the place with the soap opera stars.
But Hola broke that rule.
In a major way.
This is the story that really cements their status. We have to talk about Felipe González.
They're former prime minister of Spain.
A serious political figure.
Yeah.
The leader of the country. Now imagine you are the prime minister. You want to give your first interview while in office.
Okay.
You want to set the tone for your administration. Who do you call?
In the U.S., you'd call the New York Times or the Washington Post. In the U.K., maybe the BBC or the Times.
Right. You want gravitas. You want seriousness.
Of course.
But Felipe González didn't do that. He gave his first interview while in office to Hola.
I still can't get over this. A sitting prime minister sitting down with the magazine that covers royal weddings and celebrity breakups. It feels like such a risky move.
It feels risky to us, maybe. But think about it from his perspective. Why would he do that?
Well, if he goes to the New York Times equivalent, he's talking to the elites. He's talking to the intellectuals, the political junkies.
Exactly. But if he goes to Hola,
I'm talking to the people.
he is talking to the millions of people standing in that grocery store line. He's talking to the voters. It was a brilliant populist move.
It kind of legitimized the magazine, didn't it, as a place for a real conversation?
It did that, but it also humanized him. It put him right next to the movie stars and the princesses.
It blurs that line. It says the prime minister is just another high-status figure, like a movie star.
And that brings us back to the cultural clout of this brand. You don't get a prime minister to agree to that unless you are an institution. It shows that Hola had evolved from that little family project into something that held genuine power over the public imagination.
It's incredible. We started this deep dive thinking about a distraction in the checkout aisle, and we've ended up talking about political strategy and global empires. So when we zoom out, what's the big takeaway?
I think the lesson is about the power of niche and adaptation. Antonio Sanchez Gomez saw a specific human need, the need for glamour, for family connection, for a window into the lives of the elite.
And he built a product just for that.
And he kept it in the family? He kept the quality high? He kept the control tight? I mean, having his wife do the layouts? And then he was smart enough to adapt it.
When the world wanted Hollywood instead of royalty, he gave them Hollywood.
Exactly. When the digital age came, they kept expanding. It's a survival story.
It's about knowing your audience better than they know themselves.
It is. And it challenges us to take these light entertainments a bit more seriously. When a magazine can shape a prime minister's image and reach millions of people in 15 countries, it's not just fluff, it's a force.
So the next time you are standing in that line, buying your milk and eggs, and you see that glossy cover of Hello or Hola, don't just look at the pictures.
Look behind them.
Remember the history. Remember that family in Barcelona in 1944, and remember that you are looking at one of the most successful pivots in media history.
And here's a final thought to leave you with. We like to think we know the difference between news and entertainment. But when a prime minister gives his debut interview to a magazine founded on self-help and royalty, are those lines actually as clear as we think? Does the magazine become news, or does politics become entertainment?
something to mull over on your next grocery run. Thanks for deep diving with us today.
We'll catch you on the next one.